All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Please stand if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening all, and welcome to the City Council meeting. Tom, take the roll call, please.
Mayor King.
Present.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Present.
Councilmember Obala.
Present.
Fisher.
Present.
Waller.
Present.
Baskin. Postma.
Present.
Helly.
Present.
We have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you, Thomas. Item number 1 is a motion for the adoption of tonight's agenda. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2 is a motion approving our minutes from our June 16th, 2025 meeting. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item number 3, we have under awards and recognitions two proclamations. The first one is Austin Utilities Proclamation, and I will read that. Whereas in the year 1900, the city of Austin, Minnesota established a public utility to serve its residents and businesses, laying the groundwork for the modern Austin Utilities. And whereas for 125 years, Austin Utilities has exemplified a tradition of public ownership, local accountability, and dedicated service, ensuring that utility services are delivered reliably, safely, and affordably to all. And whereas the mission of Austin Utilities offer utility products and services in a safe, reliable, and responsible manner to enhance the quality of life in our community, has endured through changes, growth, and innovation. And whereas employees of Austin Utilities, past and present, have exemplified professionalism, integrity, and a steadfast commitment to public service, playing an essential role in the development and sustainability of Austin's infrastructure and economy. And whereas Austin Utilities has consistently led in energy efficiencies, environmental stewardship, and customer engagement, earning the trust and respect of the community it serves. And whereas in the year 2025 marks a significant milestone, the 125th anniversary of Austin Utilities, presenting a moment to celebrate its rich history, honor its achievements, and look ahead to a future of continued service and innovation. And now, therefore, I, Stephen M. King, Mayor of the City of Austin, Minnesota, do hereby recognize and celebrate the 125th anniversary of Austin Utilities. I commend the organization, its leadership, and its employees for their ongoing dedication to the well-being and prosperity of the City of Austin. And thank you for what you do, Austin Utilities. I know Alex is here, and I saw Mark. Would you like to say anything, or you want to just come on forward and I'll present this proclamation to you?
Nope, we're good.
All right.
Well said.
The proclamation says you're good. Come on forward, I'll get your proclamation. Alex, you're the front board, how's it there too? People need to know you.
Yeah.
You guys know Mark Nybauer and Alex Berger? So this is the farewell tour for Mark Nybauer.
Yeah.
He retired in August, and then Alex has been there for a while. He continued to be in Austin. Congratulations, and thank you for all you do for the citizens of Austin.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
All right, we just have 17 more left of those proclamations, so we'll be right with you. Next proclamation is for the Park and Rec. Whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including Austin, Minnesota, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being, and alleviating stress such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Parks and Recreation programming such as youth sports and environmental education are critical to childhood development. And whereas Parks and Recreation increases a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of business, and crime reduction. And whereas Parks and Recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas Parks and Recreation is essential and adaptable infrastructure that makes our communities resilient in the face of natural disasters and climate change. Whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the City of Austin and the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Department recognize the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Now therefore, I, Stephen M. King, Mayor of the City of Austin, Minnesota, do hereby recognize the month of July as Parks and Recreation Month in the community of Austin. This designation highlights the importance of our community's green spaces, recreational facilities, and the valuable programs the Park, Recreation, and Forestry Department offers. We encourage all residents to take advantage of the numerous outdoor activities, events, and resources available this month, fostering a deeper connection to nature and promoting a healthy, active lifestyle for individuals and family alike. Jason, want to come forward for your proclamation? Well done, well earned. For those in the audience who don't know, Jason Sion is our relatively new Park and Rec Director, and he's done an outstanding job hitting the ground running here, and just has a great crew that works with him, and we're super pumped and pleased that he's with us. So thank you, Jason, and happy Park and Recreation Month. Moving on to the consent agenda, looking for a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Under bids and awards, item number 5 is resolution receiving bids for Oakland Avenue and First Avenue Southwest project. Stephen.
Yes, we opened up bids for this project on May 29th of 2025. It is planned to be a 3-year project with work occurring the remainder of this summer here in 2025, as well as 2026 and 2027 for both the Oakland Avenue and First Avenue one-way corridor project. We had 4 bidders on the project. Yulin Brothers was the low bid at $15,083,845.68. That's the total cost for the 3-year project. We have multiple funding sources on the project that will go to fund this. It does come within our engineer's estimate, and it has been reviewed. So a project like this with federal dollars requires state review by the Office of Civil Rights. They're looking for to make sure that the contractor met the 10.8% disadvantaged business goal. So working the prime contractor working with subcontractors to ensure that 10.8% of the total overall project goes to disadvantaged businesses. There's on-the-job training requirements of 1,200 hours of on-the-job training. There's also prevailing wages that need to be met as in accordance with the project, and the Office of Civil Rights has signed off and been reviewing those documents for the past month. They've signed off on everything and have given us authorization to award. So we would recommend awarding this bid. It'd be just the base bid, not the alternate. So awarding this base bid in that $15 million amount to Yulin Brothers.
Very good. Thank you, Stephen. Council, any questions for Mr. Lang?
Stephen, I see the note here that the alternate we're not going ahead with was to be funded by Austin Utilities to remove existing infrastructure, and we're not going to go forward with that. Is that work still getting done? They're just choosing to do it themselves?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything further on this, or I'll entertain a resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Obala,
Aye.
Fisher, Waller,
Aye.
Postma,
Aye.
Ellie,
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 6-0, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tom. Now I'm sure this is why most of you are here under petitions and requests. Item number 6 is discussion on the point of sale ordinance. We've seen some emails bouncing around between myself and council and from the realtors and folks that are concerned. I'm a proponent of the ordinance. I do believe that maybe the rollout was clunky, and wouldn't mind backing that up a little bit to say, in January of 2026. We talked to our attorney, and I think we can do that, even though the ordinance was passed prior. But just that, I want to put that out there, and we'll certainly take a few folks' comments if you'd wish. But Stephen, why don't you lead us down a little bit more of a path on that?
All right. So about 2 weeks ago, well, actually 2 weeks ago today, we met with a group of representatives in this room and presented the point of sale ordinance to them. Many of them are here tonight. We had invited about 100 people to that meeting, and 35 were present for the meeting. It lasted about 90 minutes. We presented to them what was in your backup for the presentation about the point of sale and discussed the sump pump inspection program and the needs to maintain that with the point of sale sump pump inspection, as well as the new program, which was the point of sale inspection on sewer services. Discussed with them reasons why we were implementing that as part of our I&I program to find water infiltration and reduce I&I in our collection system, and then ultimately down at the wastewater treatment plant. From that, there were concerns raised that are detailed in your memo, concerns that were raised from the group at that time regarding the process of implementation, impacts that they see that it could raise. A lot of those points that were talked about at the meeting were also brought up to you in different emails that went around from constituents. But with that, we look for some direction and feedback from the council on how to proceed with this, and we have a couple different options there. Option one would be to proceed with implementation and compliance with the ordinance as it was adopted on April 19th. Option two would be to amend the ordinance to include some sort of future effective date that was not included originally, sometime in the near future, to allow staff to develop more of a frequently asked questions flow chart and allow realtors and closing agents time to develop policies and procedures on their end as well. And then option three would be just to modify the ordinance in some manner based on some of the feedback you hear tonight or other feedback that you've received throughout the last couple weeks. So with that, that's just a brief synopsis of the meeting and what brings us here tonight. So with that, I'll be available for any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you, Stephen. Council, questions, comments?
Well, I was at that meeting 2 weeks ago and listened to the comments from those that were in attendance. And after thinking about it, I think the most prudent thing we could do is to rescind this amendment or this ordinance and go back to the drawing board on it. I think it raised more questions than it answered. There were a lot of concerns from all sides, I think. Just moving the effective date, I mean, the ordinance is already out there. I think we just need to refigure this, maybe put a committee together to get together and discuss it, whether this is really the best way to go about it. I mean, I guess looking at how many houses are sold in Austin, you know, if we did it during street projects, you're almost gonna get as much saturation as you are at the point of sale. It doesn't define what a sale is. There were questions about that. If property is just transferred rather than sold, or does there have to be a certain amount of money changed hands? I just think that based on the feedback from those that were most affected by this, that we need to get more input from them to make sure that this is really the best way to go, or if there isn't a better way to go, in my opinion.
Thank you, Jeff. Other voices?
Stephen, could you tell us where the ordinance language came from?
The language came from our consultant that works with many other communities throughout Minnesota, Iowa. So we utilize them and their experience to develop this ordinance. Golden Valley, one of the ring suburbs, they are known for their progressive stance on their sanitary sewer collection system. They have an ordinance very similar to this one. It may have come from them, some combination of other communities that our consultant works with.
Yeah, I guess I feel like we need to take some action to protect our investment. We're putting a lot of capital into a new wastewater treatment plant, and we don't need it to be treating water that isn't dirty. So the goal that we're going for, I think, is very important. How we get there, I can be flexible. And I will say I certainly learned a lesson for next time, which is when you're trying something new, the effective date should be months and months into the future, so there's plenty of time for communication, and I won't forget that. I bet none of us involved will.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, I agree. So I know when the ordinance was passed, this is a learning opportunity for me too. The last few days, I had the opportunity to talk to residents in my ward and also some realtors. I think it's good to be a good listener because even though the ordinance in the future can be very helpful to protect both our investment, especially having your house, you're buying a house, also protecting also the buyer and the seller. But for me, in my understanding, the communication or spreading the word for our community to know about it, I think that the time it has been very short. Um, I will go for anything that will extend this process so that our realtors can talk to the community, can educate the community about this is what is coming, and that will help them also because we're not only using the realtors within the Austin. We have some realtors out of the community that this is a new thing for them. You know, if you are selling someone who their realtor in Rochester, they may have known about this. So I think will be a better opportunity for all us as a council when we have an ordinance like this, very important like this, to spread the word more. And there's no urgency in something like this. We have to educate our community because we are passing a law that will last for a very long time.
Thank you, Obala. Anybody else want to weigh in?
What I'm hearing from Lauren and Obala is option number 2, amend the ordinance to include an effective date in the near future to allow staff to ask questions, so you're in favor of the ordinance. I like number 2, but I would like to hear from some of the folks in the audience as to why option number 2 shouldn't happen. So whoever wants to speak.
Let's go with the council first, though, Paul. Posty, Rebecca, anything?
You know, I've read a lot of emails over the last few weeks on this. I do believe it is an important ordinance that we continue to push forward with. If we need to give time to make the ordinance more adaptable to our realtors and to buyers and sellers, then that's what we need to do. I would be a fan of pushing the date back, but I definitely think we need this type of ordinance for our future to protect the wastewater treatment plant. When we put that amount of money down, we really do need to protect our investments within the city, but we do need to work as a community. So I think that if we need to continue to grow this ordinance so that it works for both the city and the community, then that's what we have to do.
Thank you. Posty?
Yeah, I was at the meeting that Jeff was at. I really appreciate everybody who came. There were some really good questions. I understood some of the frustrations. You know, I think we've all dealt with government entities when they pass laws or rules and then can't answer your questions, that is really frustrating. And so I apologize for that. So I'm in favor of at least a delay to make sure that we can get something in place. I kind of, you know, I understand the intent of this ordinance. I'll be honest that I'm waffling a little bit on the need of it. Just especially due to some of the cost. And it's interesting, if you weren't at that meeting, there was 2 sets of professionals and there were very different opinions. You had a lot of folks in the real estate world who had one opinion, and we had some folks from the plumbing world who were of another opinion on this ordinance. And it just kind of to show that it really depends as to what area you work on. But, you know, I do think that we need to, at a minimum, delay this, come up with a better set of procedures, FAQs, so that everybody understands the process that needs to happen to be compliant. Whether you are using one of our local real estate agents, whether you're selling on your own, you should be able to follow a process that's outlined with forms and things that I know we don't have in place at the moment. I guess I'd just like to hear what folks in the audience have to share.
Thank you. Appreciate everybody weighing in. So it appears that we got some consensus on delaying it. I don't know if that satisfies most of the members of the audience, but I'd certainly like to hear from a couple. I don't think we need, I think most of you probably have the same thoughts, but anybody but Chris Heichel would be nice. Yeah, welcome. You got it.
Okay. Well, thanks. I had sent an email with a few questions and concerns. You know, if it has to be point of sale, I think there's a better way to go about it. I think for sure when we're doing new infrastructure, new roads, you already have the streets dug up. You know, could we implement at that point in time that, a mandate that the residents has to have the camera done? And then if that be the case, the road's already tore up. If we're doing this at point of sale, you're gonna have patched roads all over the place. I know Mr. Mork had just recently sold a couple properties where the road was just done, and he had buyers opt, I think they opted, I'm kind of speaking for Tom, to have a sewer inspection done, and in fact, the sewers were found to be in need of some repair. The street had just been done, so they had to dig up a whole new street. I feel that there's a better way to go about doing it. I would also like to see, we had mentioned perhaps looking at putting a fee, a tax, whatever you would like to call it, on the utility bill, kind of like we're doing for the storm sewer, to help and assist in the cost of making a, if it be a seller, a homeowner, whomever, assist them in doing so. Whether you're a renter or an owner, either way, it's going to trickle down to you, the cost of doing so. So for anybody that says, well, if you're a renter, you really have no skin in the game, or there's no reason for you to pay this, I feel that there is, because ultimately the landlord's going to pass it down. You know, there were other things that I questioned. Certainly, we know we have an aging sewer system and many aging things, but I do question how we're measuring how much of that is getting into the wastewater treatment plant. How is it measured? And I guess to share that data with us would be very beneficial too, to help us understand. I mean, my concern moreover is we hate to see anybody purchase a new home and a sewer backup in it because, you know, they either opted not to have the sewer inspected or it wasn't even offered to them. But again, we know we have an aging system, and if we can get ahead of it before it completely fails, obviously that's what we want to do. I'm just trying to see what else I had in my email. But really, I just think, let's help our homeowners, you know, figure out a way to assist them financially. I'd really like to see it moved from point of sale. But if that's the way it has to be, it'd still be great to have some type of assistance to help. And I think moreover, a proposal of doing it at street repair would be a good thing.
You know, it's an interesting point you raised, Chris, because I was the beneficiary of a new street last year. And I've also had jetter clean come out to my house twice a year because I have a 54 feet out from my house where it kind of meets the curb and goes into the street. It's clay and the roots are growing through it. The PVC portion up to 54 are good. So my neighbor, who was also in the street project, alerted me to his sewer problem, and he had called the city and said, hey, while you're there, can you?
Right.
So we end up, you pay a little extra, maybe it was $1,600.
Sure.
But the street is done, your yard's already ripped up, and it was a nice seamless project. I do like the idea if at our street projects, if we could scope these folks, I just think the protection of the homeowner. You know, I'm on my fourth home, had 4 inspections, not one time was it offered to me to
Sure.
do a sewer, and 2 of those 4 had sewer issues. So I do like the idea of protection for our investment of wastewater treatment, but also for the homeowner as well. And I think realtors, I'm sure you want that too. So I do like the idea, though, when the
Yeah.
streets are being ripped up, then's the time to do it because it's a lot cheaper and just better. So,
Well, thank you,
Chris.
council, also for listening to us, and I really appreciate it. I will admit, when we left that day 2 weeks ago, we felt pretty defeated and unheard. So thank you for considering all of our concerns and what kind of brought us together.
Very good. Thank you, Chris. Anybody else have different opinions or, sir, step up, and if you could, name and address for the record, please.
My name's Paul Walling. I had a house, well, I still have it, on 4th Street. The city don't even know where the sewer is. I spent over $2,000 trying to find the sewer, and the sewer goes to the neighbors and then out to the street. You know, and they had absolutely no records, you know, of these older houses and that stuff. So I don't know how in the world you're supposed to get a sewer examination when the sewer don't even go out to the street. It goes to the neighbor. Every time he'd plug up his sewer, it drained back into the basement of my house. That's my question on this deal.
Is there
Their records are
Thank
On
you.
these older establishments, they don't have records.
And your name again, Paul, was it?
Yeah.
No, thank you. Stephen, is there some sewers tied together, homes?
Yes.
Okay. Any more? Any further? All right, thank you. We'll, that's something we'll have to address, no doubt.
Do you want more?
No.
Okay.
Anyone else wish to speak? Matt, welcome.
Just want to reiterate what Chris said. You know, this is going to affect the lowest income demographic in Austin the most. They have the oldest homes, the oldest sewer lines. So I think, while the streets are torn up, it'd be a great time to take a look at them. And if we don't go that route, there should be some sort of funding or pool of money to help these homeowners. And, you know, me and Jerry had one last year that cost $29,000, you know? So the expense can be immense. Yeah, I think a little bit more planning and a roundtable discussion with the committee would be beneficial. And at a minimum, push the ordinance out as far as we can.
Okay. You know, it's interesting, as you say, Matt, too, that, yeah, it's an expense to the homeowner, but I was paying $600 a time for Jetter Clean to come. So the course of that's $1,200 a year. I was gonna keep paying that until, again, my street was torn up and I got to it. So it was an expense either way. If you have a crushed sewer system, you're gonna have an expense to clean it out all the time.
Yeah.
And Holiday, one was Holiday, it was $750. So anyway, I appreciate your comments.
I do have one more story. Steve, I know you remember this one, but a couple years ago, remember that one we had to line? There was a hole literally 1 foot from the city connection. But we had just done the street, you know, so, but it still needed to be repaired. Luckily, at that time, the city agreed to cover it, but just another example of where it could have been taken care of while the street was torn up.
And there is that Precision Lining, I think, out of Owatonna that does some business around here that does warranty it for 100 years, and
Yeah, that's who did our $29,000.
nice option too. Appreciate it. Anyone else have different comments or? Sure, then we'll take you too if there's anything different. I'd like to have something different. I get with the sentiment, so.
Wayne Bonus. I live over in the northeast part of town. Probably more of a question than a comment, and maybe Stephen can answer this. What constitutes repair? Does it have to be dug up and replaced from the house out to the main? Or is it possible to put a liner in your sewer system to make it
Compliant.
comply? Yeah.
Yep.
Depends on the,
There'd be 3 types of repair. One would be full replacement. The other would be just a spot repair of the bad section. And the third option would be a liner inside of it. So it all depends on the severity of the condition and choosing one of those 3 options to complete the repair.
Okay. Yeah, there's an outfit, I seen, outfit from Claremont. Can't remember the name. My wife wrote it down. This trailer was out in front of a house that's for sale. And we figured it was probably one of the houses that fell into this and had to be repaired. And that was a liner. Now, I didn't talk to the owner of the business in length, so I'm not quite sure exactly how that liner works, but, or the cost either. I have no idea what that would run. So. Steve, do you have any idea of cost?
Yeah, when we've done spot liners, I believe that company from Claremont is the Precision Lining. They're also out of Owatonna. And the city has done a couple of them for $3,500 each repair. So anywhere from $3,500 to $5,000, depending on the length of a spot liner.
Okay.
That was my estimate too. I had Precision Liner do my estimate.
Yeah, that was
54
it. After
feet.
Stephen said that was the
It was
company.
$4,000.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Ma'am.
So I'm Jasmine from Adams, Ritzy and Sween, and so like right now, I work with a bunch of attorneys, I'm a paralegal, but we need more clarification because with the way the ordinance is set up, it says at a point of sale, but it says also anytime there's a deed transfer. Well, deeds are in divorces, estate planning, real estate closings, they happen all over. So if you're getting divorced, now you have to, or doing your estate plan, and now you have to come up with money in order to add your kid to title or your spouse out of title or whatever the situation is, they may not have that. So we need clarification. So all we're asking is more clarification, and then also to like at least delay this. Because we also get questions all the time when we work with for sale by owners or clients in general about, they'll be asking, what's the criteria? What's going to be a pass or fail? Well, we don't have a criteria that tells us this is a pass or fail, and I think that's another issue we have is we can't have gray areas. We need black and white. We need to be like, hey, your system will fail if you get it inspected if X, Y, and Z is in there. And we don't have that, and as far as we know, it's going to take time to develop that. So.
Thank you. Mr. Bramwell.
You know, I should take a win and go, but I'm not that smart.
I'm not that smart.
All I want to do is say that Austin is probably a pretty average community in this country, and I'm sure that you guys have all heard these numbers. But you know, more than half the people in this country owe more credit card debt than have savings. And over 40% of the households cannot withstand a $400 emergency cost without borrowing the money for covering that cost. Plus, there's 25% of the people in this country have no savings at all. Now, where I'm headed with this was when you're looking at a repair, whether it's $5,000 or $10,000 or $25,000. I know the point was brought up that it was done at point of sale, so you would have some money. But unless you're going to go live in Kaufman Park in a tent, you have to replace that house. And most of that equity in that house is eaten up by inflation or created by inflation. So I'm just saying that what you're asking is probably a noble cause. But when you start putting this kind of a burden on the average person in Austin, and like Matt said, it's going to affect the houses that are $200,000 down, not the $400,000 houses that have been built in the last 40 years, 35 years. It's going to be your lower end cost. You're always talking about keeping housing costs reasonable in this town. And you're just going to inflate every lower end house in this town by probably $8,000 to $15,000. So I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but an alternative funding like Albert Lee or some other communities where there is a monthly tax, and I think Chris touched on that a little bit, is probably the only way that you can help some of the people that are going to be really affected by this ordinance that you guys are about to adopt. So that's all.
Thank you, John. My house was built 40 years ago, and tree roots they don't discriminate. So I was impacted by it negatively. Let's hear from the Realtor Association.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. One of the reasons that typically we're speaking, we're
add your name to the record.
Oh,
please.
sorry. Eric Brownlow, Southeast Minnesota Realtors Association Executive. There's a reason that we're typically opposed to point of sale ordinances, and that's just because of the fact that they do not achieve what you're trying to achieve. We can argue statistics all you want, but typically speaking, the average homeowner in Austin stays in their home anywhere from 10 to 14 years. So now it's a waiting game to accomplish what you want to accomplish. We do have over 1,400 members across all of southeastern Minnesota. And the point is that very rarely will you get us agree on anything, but we do agree on the end game of stopping the intrusion of fresh water into the system. It is a cause that is worth the fight, especially to protect your investment. Point of sale is just not the way to get about it. I will agree with Mr. Austin. By appealing the ordinance doesn't mean it's dead forever, but let's slow it down. Let's think about it. Let's make sure the homeowners are protected if they have a problem. Mr. Lang did an exceptional job in presenting the case the other night, and again, we agreed with a lot of it. It was the execution and the rollout, and we ask for a pause. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, I think everybody wants the protection of the homeowner, no doubt. So Council?
I have a two question for Mr. Lang. I know we do apply sometime for federal funding or other funding that help us, either HRA or other. Before we came up with this ordinance, did we consider getting any federal funding or the state funding that may help alleviate this when it happened?
Generally, the state and federal funding is only eligible for public infrastructure, and these services are considered privately owned by each individual homeowner, so it would make it difficult for that type of grant to be applied for this use.
Have we checked with the other cities that who have done this before? What type of ways they have used?
Not specifically, but we do acknowledge there are lots of different funding options for doing something like this, and many of those have been touched on. A utility fee that would generate enough money each year to pay for the number that are completed on a yearly basis is one option. Finding ways to allow for the repairs to be completed and assessed back to the property is another option. Mainly that assessment is the loan that someone decides to take that loan out with the city and have it assessed back for 15 years versus going to the bank and taking out a loan. It's still the same cost, and it's all would be incurred by the homeowner, or this point of sale option. So there are multiple options out there, but in our community, our policy position has been that the service lines are owned by the property owner from the house all the way out to the connection at the main. And if we implemented a new funding mechanism, it would impact those that, like Mr. King, that just paid 100% of his service the last couple of years, and now all of a sudden we have a communal fund that's going to pay for everyone. So no matter when you implement something, there's always that line of winners and losers or before and afters, but our plan with implementing the point of sale was to continue that same policy that we've been using for the past 100 years in making the homeowner the responsible entity of their private sewer service.
Thank you. My last question, and I will give it to other council members. So let's say, for example, some people, we do like repair during the summer and so forth. What if those people want to close their houses, during winter, whereby and then they found something that will delay, let's say, at the beginning of winter?
Yeah, there are time limitations depending on the seasons, like you described, and also availability of contractors to be able to repair those. That's another factor that weighs into when someone can get their service repaired. They may not be able to get a contractor lined up for a couple months. So there's opportunities in the ordinance to allow escrow dollars to be set aside to allow that sale to move through, and the dollars are set aside to repair that deficiency within 180 days. So there is a time allotment there that gives people time to not hold up the sale and allow things to continue to move forward, and then the service gets repaired later with the dollars set aside in escrow.
Thank you.
Stephen, kind of on that note, so, there's been, I think, a lot of broad talk about at least delaying this right now. I think I've heard January 1st thrown about as a date. That puts us kind of right in the dead of winter. Like, especially for the level that I think that this needs to be looked at with some stakeholders and meetings and things. Can we realistically get what we need in place by January 1st? Or just pushing it to even like March 1st? Give us enough time so that, because I only want to do this once if we're going to push it back. I don't want to have a rolling delay in that uncertainty. Do you feel confident?
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt you, Mike, but I was just thinking about this. I think we should delay implementation until July of 2026 and give ourselves to the first of the year to clarify, edit, change, and then 6 whole months of education, sharing resources, making sure people understand. I think that's realistic, right?
The more I thought about it, the more I didn't think January 1st was realistic.
Yes,
I felt
I
like
agree.
meetings and things would be rushed.
Yes.
So I'm open to other dates. I was thinking March, July. I mean, the audience is probably every new date they get more excited, so.
Stephen, what do you think about by January 1st, we can enact a edited ordinance, and by July 1st of 2026, is the implementation date, effective date?
Yeah, I think that's some date in the future, moving it out to is fine. I think in your backup material, there was a lot of references in our public meeting a couple weeks ago about the county's septic system ordinance, and there's a very good, the county has a very good one-pager, kind of frequently asked questions handout that we could easily mimic with this. I think it answers a lot of the questions that were brought up, and would be something that could easily be developed in a couple months to help facilitate and move this forward. So whatever dates council is.
So if you're saying you want to delay this, you're saying that you feel that the point of sale is the best place to implement the scoping of the lines and having everybody have their sump pumps recertified after we just went through that program. We're talking, we had several people stand up and say people have had to redo their sewer lines, and you end up tearing up a brand new street. So why don't we just do it when we're doing street projects instead of at the
Well,
point of sale?
one reason is that street projects happen every 50 years, and I just heard that on average, homes get sold every 10 to 14 years. That's a reason that I think it's pretty important.
But not every home.
Every home.
I'm open to exploring that idea. Honestly, one of my concerns that wasn't mentioned is the fact that, I've heard a lot of cost concerns, and I get that. I'm guessing just based on my 4 or 5 years on council that the average street repair costs the average homeowner between $2,500 and $3,000. So now and so some are already struggling with that amount, and now we're gonna tack this on at the exact same time. That's honestly my bigger concern.
I agree.
Well, it's been said that it's a burden to them when they sell their home, that they don't have the money at the time when they sell their home. So it's,
You would hope that there's at least, if somebody's selling a home, you would hope there's some equity, like that's the one point in time where they might have some equity. I understand, folks, but things have to get paid for somehow, somewhere.
Right, and also, everyone who pays a utility bill is paying for the infiltration that's happening.
Correct.
So this isn't a zero-sum game where we're solving a problem by just taking from low-income households. We're all
Right.
paying for the extra capacity, which is how we got started here, so.
I do like the ordinance. I'm a big proponent of not having sewage back up in your basement and having to pay 3 times a year to have it jetter cleaned. So there's expense on that side. Let's not forget that I'm an absolute victim of that. I was also a loser on the sump pump. There's things as you go about making city policy the best for all, that there is gonna be winners and losers. I had to have a sump pump installed that for 40 years of existence of my house never had water in the sump. But I paid it just for the greater good of our investment and just for the greater good of the city. But I am an absolute proponent of the ordinance. I think, again, me as a 4-time homeowner, not one time was my sewer inspected, not one time was it even brought up. So I think it's a great protection. I think it's just great for our city, our wastewater treatment plant that's going to be coming online soon, $110 million investment. So there's a lot of reasons to do it. I get there's also reasons not to, but I think it's overall, we could tweak it a little bit, let's hold it off a little bit, but I do like the ordinance, so I'm hoping we get a motion here soon.
The other big thing is the education that's going on. I mean, when you buy a home, you look for the roof and those things. These are unseen underground, but equally as cost effective as people, as the street project came through. Mayor, you had a lot of personal experience with it, but as the street project comes through, homeowners are certainly able to contact their local plumber and say, hey, if it's gonna mean $5,000 or $1,500, there's a pretty extensive vested interest for you to be able to go ahead and televise that. We certainly could add that in the letters to homeowners that might be something that they want to consider.
Good idea.
They're trying to limit their expenses as they're moving forward, but just educating and bringing awareness to the fore of something that can be very costly and protect the $100 million infrastructure investment that we're making is really critical.
Sure, thank you, well said.
Mayor, is it public comment closed?
Kinda.
Only to Chris?
It's going, yeah, only to Chris. I like that woman right there. Now, we'll one more. Chris, what do you got?
Well, I just think, not only does it affect those that are of probably the worst economic status, but it's also gonna affect Altair relocation, which is
Will it
Hormel.
affect what?
Altair relocation. They will not, Altair relocation is Hormel's, who they use to move people in and out. If there is a home that needs repair, they will not purchase that home. So that's another piece of the point of sale. I would just really like to just put a pause on all of it so we can all sit down in a room and figure out if there's a different way. Why is it that we have to make a decision right now whether or not we leave it point of sale?
I get what you're saying, but I don't know if we want to make a carve out for a particular industry or corporation to sell. I know they buy the home and then resell it, or how it works. That's a nice advantage or a nice perk if you are for
Right.
Hormel, that they will buy your home.
escrows.
But
Yeah, escrows, not every
Let's-
bank will escrow. Yeah, not every bank will escrow for the home back either.
Thank you.
One thing that I would like to point out, and Stephen will correct me if I'm wrong, but I was at the meeting and listened and got a lot of questions answered there. As somebody who's used Altair, for instance, many times in purchases, if I knew I was gonna sell my home in the next 2 or 3 years, I could proactively go ahead and get scoped, send it to the city, find out, and once it's, you get the thumbs up, that is good for 10 years. So just because we're requiring it at point of sale does not mean that you have to wait to point of sale to get that done.
But you do have something in there saying that if it doesn't pass, it has to be
90
repaired in
That,
90
that's
days.
correct.
Now, like for me, I plan on moving in probably 4 or 5 years. If I know that this is going to be a point of sale, I may want to do that, but I also may want to have the time to save up to pay for that repair as well.
Yep.
And I probably wouldn't have it scoped until I had to.
So you could have it scoped and just not sent to the city.
Right.
And you would hope that the person doing the scoping would be able to tell you based on, their, hey, here's what I'm seeing, here's what's likely to happen. It's, I do equate it, as was mentioned, a roof. When you have a roof that you're pretty sure is gonna need to be replaced in the next 3 to 5 years, I can appreciate trying to save up to fix it. It is harder with this because you can't necessarily see it, but it's just as important.
Thank you. One question I have for Matt. Matt Locke, what's the scope price?
Open and running at probably anywhere from $85 to $250.
There you go. I think that's
How far?
beautiful. Thank you. Good, money well spent. So council looking for a motion.
So I would move, I would like to, I just don't know that I feel that we'll have everything buttoned up by January 1st. So I'm going to move to delay the implementation of the ordinance to March 1st. And at that point, if we feel like we need a little more communication time, that can be, I have a feeling the ordinance might even change a little bit. And we'll obviously need a meeting or two to make that happen as well. So I will propose to delay to March 1st, 2026.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah,
just for clarity, whatever you do tonight is going to have to be encapsulated in a new ordinance.
Right.
Because just repealing an ordinance or adding an effective date to an ordinance has to go through the ordinance process. So there's publication and posting and bringing it back and unanimous vote on the first reading and all those rules that govern. So I just didn't want anybody to leave tonight and think that whatever was voted here is the final say on it. You're giving direction to us on what to bring back.
right.
And then 2 weeks from tonight, we could, if it passes on the first vote, that could be the date it becomes effective.
Right, and there is urgency from these folks of that intervening period where we had it enacted until now, so taking action on that is important.
Thank you. So a motion and a second to back it up, rescind, rewrite it to March, with the date of March 1. And Tom, roll call, please.
Motion by Councilmember Postma, seconded by Councilmember Helly to delay the implementation until March 1st to 26, and I vote is in favor of such.
Mayor, can we clarify, are we still talking about maintaining the point of sale? Or is that
I
to be
believe that's part of the motion, to
Okay.
use it as point of sale.
At this point, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I vote is in favor of such. Councilmember Obala,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Waller,
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Helly.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Nay.
Motion passes 5-1, Your Honor.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you all for coming, and appreciate your comments. And I know you all want what's best for either your clients or yourself, so appreciate your voice. Thank you. Moving on to item number 2 is a resolution, or 7, resolution approving an agreement with WHKS for construction administration for the 2025 Oakland Avenue project. Stephen.
Yes, as part of the bid award that we did tonight for Oakland Avenue, we have in front of you a proposal from WHKS to assist with project administration on a federal project like this. There's a great deal of paperwork that is required to meet many of those requirements that I talked about during the notice to award. Before you is a proposal from WHKS in the amount of $70,000 to complete the 7 or 8 items associated with the federal documentation, project management. We as city staff will also be involved, of course, with the construction inspection, surveying, construction administration that we do as well. We're just utilizing some assistance from WHKS to help us assist with a very large project. So this proposal is just for 2025, the work that will occur later on this summer, and we would request approval of attached amendment number 4.
Very good. Thank you, Stephen. Council, any questions, Mr. Lang?
Stephen, I know this is jumping the gun a little bit on our budget discussion, but so you're telling us this is basically good for 1 year. So I'm going to assume we're going to have similar requests for this project for the next 2 years as well. Is that safe to assume?
That is correct.
I can't help but see $70,000 and think that that's at least half an FTE that we could have of our own staff doing this work and others.
Appreciate that, Bosti. Any other questions? Looking for a resolution for item number 7.
So moved.
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Obala.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Waller.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Helly.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 6-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 8 is resolution approving the Hormel ICM agreement. Stephen?
Yeah, we bring these before you from time to time. This regulates the wastewater discharge from any particular facility to our wastewater treatment plant. It regulates flow, strength, suspended solids, nitrogen, and pH. We have worked with representatives from Hormel to make pretty drastic modifications to our current ICM agreements that we have with them. And this has been a requirement of the MPCA to make these modifications. So together with all of that involved, we've come to a consensus on new limit numbers that will be in place for the next 18 months until we have our new plant complete, and then there would be a new ICM agreement at that time. But for the next 18 months, we'd recommend approval of the ICM agreement that is proposed in your backup material.
Very good. Thank you, Stephen. Questions, council? Looking for resolution, item number 8.
So moved.
Second.
Thomas?
Councilmember Obala.
Abstain.
Fisher.
Aye.
Waller.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Helly.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 5-0 with 1 abstaining, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tom. Item number 9 is resolution approving an easement release with Austin Utilities. Stephen?
So this is a unique request. A property located outside of the city limits has requested release of an easement. So it kind of came through Austin Utilities first. They've gone through some procedures, and did the locate come back clear?
The locate has not been done, but
Okay.
talking with Craig, we've done our due diligence. So Austin Utilities does not have any infrastructure located in the easement, nor do we foresee any future use for the easement. So from our end, we're clear. Our commission approved it last and it's really a charter requirement to have council approve that.
Greg?
Yeah, so This came from an outside private title company who was reviewing title, found this easement, and for some reason felt the easement was gonna be problematic for whatever the buyer or owner wanted to do with the property. So they presented to Austin Utilities this release of easement. And that's the extent of my knowledge about how this easement came to be, where it's, you know, how it was created, was it platted, whatnot. From my perspective as a city attorney, it's not my job to advise private people about how they might get an easement lifted off of their property. If they want to do that, they should go through the steps and they should do that. This was presented to us as, would you sign this document? Austin Utilities, as a public utility, has the right to install utilities on any public easement that's within their service area. Their service area is larger than the city of Austin. So that was the logical place for them to start and say, do you have any installed utilities in this location? Would you have a problem with releasing any rights you have to put utilities in that location? Austin Utilities has looked at it, their board has looked at it, and they have determined, as I understand it, that they presently don't have anything there. They have no plans to ever put anything there. They see no value in maintaining that easement for their purposes, either now or in the future. The charter for the city of Austin says that Austin Utilities or any other city government entity can't give up a right in real property without the council also approving that. Because there may be a situation, not like this, but in other situations where the city would say, well, if Austin Utilities doesn't need it, maybe we do. Maybe the city has another use for it, and instead of giving it up or giving it away, we should take over. And that's why it's in the charter. So when they asked me what to do here, I said, make sure you don't have any interest in it, then bring it to the council, because the charter requires a council vote before you give up any rights in an easement. From a practical standpoint, I think that these private entities need to really figure out how you vacate an easement that was established, I believe, in the plat, and that since this is in the county, they may have more hoops to jump through. But from their perspective, I think there's value in having the Austin Utilities Board vote that they don't have any use for this. They don't plan to object or cause problems. They're willing to cooperate with getting rid of this easement. And for the council then to vote for it, to make sure again that we're following our charter, really is all we're doing tonight. But we've also notified these private entities, they should do a go for one call just to make sure that Charter Communications doesn't have anything buried there, because a utility easement established in a plat can be open to all kinds of telecoms. And, you know, over the life of this thing, there may be things buried out there. They haven't completed that goal. So these private folks may have other steps they need to go through. All we're asking the council to do tonight is to say, from a council perspective, we don't see a public use for this. We don't object at all to Austin Utilities cooperating. In fact, we would cooperate with this request if asked. And if this document will solve your problem, private person, we're certainly okay with somebody signing this and giving this to you. That's all we're asking you to decide tonight.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate that. So council, any questions on item number 9? Otherwise, looking for a resolution.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom.
Councilmember Obala.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Waller.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Helly.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 6-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 10 is a request for, motion for requesting sale of equipment. Stephen?
Yes, we have a snowplow that has been replaced. It's a 2007 International plow truck. It's been replaced by a new 2025 piece of equipment, and we're looking for approval from council to sell this at auction.
Very good. Thank you, Stephen. Council, any questions? Otherwise, looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Goodbye, equipment.
Stephen, you're not fishing for any council member bets on this time, right?
Only if they want to.
Bring top dollar. And item number 11 is a resolution approving an off-site gambling application for the Fraternal Order of the Eagles. Need a resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Obala.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Waller.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Helly.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 6-0, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tom. Item number 12 is accepting this donation into the city of Austin. The donor is Hormel Foods Charitable Trust. They're giving $2,500 for the bike club. Looking to have a motion to accept that, or a resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Obala.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Waller.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Helly.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 6-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 13 is a resolution declaring the structure at 703 Fifth Street Northwest as hazardous. Need a resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Tom?
Councilmember Obala.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Waller.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Helly.
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Austin.
Aye.
Resolution passes 6-0, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 14 is a series of motions granting the Planning and Zoning Department the power to contract the removal of junk and/or illegally stored vehicles at the following location. 14A, the address is 1110 Second Avenue Southwest, the Bennett property.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 14B, the address is 605 Fifth Street Northwest, the Brooks Greenback property.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 14C, the address 1005 8th Street Northwest, the Fink property.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Lastly here, the citizens addressing the council. Is anyone here in the chambers wishing to speak with council on items that were not on the agenda? I'll be going to heck. Welcome.
Days I like to talk. Brad Johnson's my name. I'd like to thank the council and all of the city departments on behalf of the Austin Enhancement Group for all of the work that they did for the 4th of July celebration.
Well said. I appreciate it.
That's all.
Thank
Right
you.
on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to reports and recommendations. Craig?
Yeah, council got notification on our budget meeting, so hopefully you have those on your calendar. Staff is working on Hormel Foundation requests. Mr. Dankert's opened up portals, so staff is working on that. That will come back for your ranking as we go through the process. SKB got a 6-month notice, as you recall, on our leachate PFAS efforts of the December 31st when they'll have to deal with that. So we gave SKB notice on that December 31st date to remind them. Yeah, the July 4th event was excellent. AEG, thank you for everything, and all the other volunteers, the chamber, and everyone else for the efforts that they did. It was a bang-up event. And then it doesn't take much to realize our hearts go out to those in Texas dealing with those tragedies and the importance our public service and public safety provide. That's all I have. Mr. Lang has something.
Thank you. Stephen?
Just want to mention that we did spray for mosquitoes ahead of the 4th of July festivities. We sprayed on Tuesday, July 1st in the evening. Prior to that, we had received about 20 complaints about just the quantity of mosquitoes around the community. After spraying, or when it was announced that we were spraying, we received somewhere 3 to 5 complaints about spraying, folks that didn't want us to spray. So it's not 100% that everybody loves it, of course. And then now afterwards, today, we've received 3 calls that the spray didn't work. So wide variety of feedback. I've heard positive things from the fireworks event and things that those that were there didn't have many mosquito impacts. So I think overall, just my analysis of it is positive, but just wanted to give some feedback on that. Right now, our next event that we generally spray for is the fair, and we'll monitor. In the past, it's turned dry on us in July, and we haven't had to spray ahead of the fair, but we'll keep an eye on it and plan accordingly as that gets closer.
Very good. Thank you for that, Stephen. All right, on to council. Becky?
I have nothing on.
Mike?
A couple things, as was mentioned, I really do want to thank everybody involved with the 4th of July celebration. I know Parks and Rec is very involved, streets, the police, Chamber of Commerce for throwing up a bang-up parade. And the Austin Enhancement Group, who just really goes above and beyond to make that a great event. I actually got a text from a friend who was down with his kids and said, wow, like, there's just so many options this year. They're having a great time. So just really appreciate that. Also want to let you know that Discover Austin is working with the city, and we are going to become a film-friendly city because we have multiple folks who are interested in shooting movies. I don't know that you're going to see Marvel Studios in Austin just yet, but we have at least one documentarian who's scheduled to shoot around town, and another I think, documentary-style movie interested as well. And so it won't necessarily be about Austin, but it will be cool to see Austin in the movie. So we're going to be a film-friendly city, just another way to promote ourselves around.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Jeff?
Yeah, kudos to the Austin Enhancement Group, the Chamber of Commerce, and everyone at the city that had a part in pulling off the fabulous festivities over the weekend. I think everybody had a great time. Just touch on something Mr. Postman mentioned earlier when we approved the WHKS contract for $70,000 and how that could go to pay for or help pay for a person in engineering that we've talked about in the past, that it's not an immediate payback, but it does certainly have payback over time. I guess along those lines, those of you that our new hire gentleman sitting next to Mr. Lang, if you recall why you authorized his hiring, I don't think you anticipated him spending probably a fair amount of his time looking at sewer line videos if you do pass this ordinance with the point of sale issue to it, because that's the gentleman that will be reviewing all the videos that people submit, and he's the one making the call on how much damage and what needs to be repaired, if it needs to be repaired. So that position, based on what I thought it was being hired for and approved in last year's budget, doesn't line up with that. So think about that as we move this ordinance forward too. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura?
I just want to remind council that back in April, we did a performance review with the city administrator, and we said we'd provide feedback in the month of July, so we need to get that on the calendar. And
The week of the 21st of July.
okay, great. I also want to announce publicly that as we're rolling into budget time, we're seeking efficiencies or places where the community's being overserved. It's really a big budget crunch. We don't want to pay our people less than they're worth. We don't want to cut their health insurance benefits, but we also don't want to see double-digit increases on property taxes. So I would love to hear any and all ideas about where we might be overserving the community and providing too much service, or especially places where we could make a one-time investment and have savings on our labor over time. We're a people-heavy business. That's how our operation runs, is on people, and so anything that would save our people time would be money well spent, and now is the time for great ideas. So frontline employees, residents, everybody, all hands on deck to figure out this budget issue. I also want to announce and amplify for the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Department that they have a program where you can adopt a boulevard tree. You can call in and request a boulevard tree to be planted in the boulevard in front of your house. You can help keep our city expenses low by agreeing to water that tree for the next few years, and that way we don't have to send out a watering truck. That would be super helpful and a great way to have a positive impact as we're all dealing with the emerald ash borer and losing so many trees. You can adopt a boulevard tree. Also, some of you saw there was a big announcement, but there'll be new playground equipment installed in Todd Park. The robot is staying, don't worry. Jason's, I'm pretty sure it was even mentioned in Jason's job interview a couple years ago, like for gosh sakes, don't touch the robot. But there'll be new playground equipment at Todd Park and also at Decker Park. And also, we've had some savings in those couple of projects and have some funding freed up so that we're going to be able to add to the playground at Rotary Centennial Park. The Oaxacan community has really asked for that for many years, and so we're excited to be able to beef up that playground. And then I will just add to the chorus of saying thank you for the Chamber and Austin Enhancement Group for the Freedom Fest work. I know it's a ton of work. My 16-year-old daughter, for whatever reason, has often been traveling during 4th of July. So this was her first 4th of July fireworks in Austin, and she came home and said, "Core memory, Mom. It's a core memory."
Thank you, Laura. Obala.
Well, I want to say this was last 4th of July was great. Every year is upgrading. Thank you to all the people involved, the chamber and everyone in the community. I took my boy and girl. This is their first time to walk through. So halfway, they almost give up. I'm like, the more candy will be at the end. So we keep walking as they were giving out. So they were disappointed at the end. They did not have any candy. All candy they have was gone because they were giving out. They thought they can have their own. So, but they love it. I thank you again for that. And second, I want to say thank you to Mayor King. This last Saturday, we had a very Anuak festival, so whereby took place in Cottage Grove. Mayor and I went over there for celebrations. So that was amazing to see the dance and everything. A lot of people from Austin went from here to celebrate the culture event. So I believe Mayor may have something to say. So thank you.
Thanks, Obala.
Well, I also want to thank all those involved with the 4th of July. Parade was great. The band shell, good entertainment, good music. I listened to Mike play. Great fireworks. Thank you to all. And also, Jim, I was taking a walk last Sunday and came across a garage fire. It was 90+ degrees. To watch the firefighters and to watch Jim, to watch those guys in that heat, support each other with their tanks and let each other rest, and to go put the garage fire out while the house next door was starting to burn as well. Kudos to all your firefighters and volunteers, just to watch them and work in the heat and vigorously put that fire out before the house started on fire was interesting to watch, and I felt a big respect for what you guys go through, whether it's 95-degree day or not. If there's a fire, there's a fire. So thank you to you and your guys.
In addition, Councilmember Fisher appreciates the rest he got in that walk to watch your firemen work in that heat. That was not said, but I'm sure he appreciated that rest. Lot to be proud of in Austin, Minnesota. Nancy Schnabel with the Discover Austin forwarded three awards, if you will, that Austin recently got. In Nextdoor, I believe it's nextdoor.com or Nextdoor something. We're the #1 friendliest place to live in Minnesota based on affordability and friendliness. #1. We are in the top 10, in fact, number 10 in the Family Destination Guide for number 10 of the most affordable towns in Minnesota. And also in Family Destination Guide, number 8 in charming town to live in retirement that will not break the bank. So kudos to everybody. That's just beautiful. Those are great selections, and we appreciate those folks and those awards, I guess, if you will. Also, Obala touched on, I was honored to be able to be invited up to the Anuak annual celebration. When Obala texted and then called, he wanted to know if I was available. Yep, absolutely. I said, yes, I'll be there. Just let me know where. Thinking it was an Austin event. Well, it's Cottage Grove. So up to Cottage Grove I went and I was treated like royalty. It was absolutely amazing group of about 200 or 300 Anuak individuals that just roll out the red carpet for all their guests, and they were just very gracious. And what I learned there is Obala is their Elvis. I mean, this guy is a celebrity. When he gets there, people know Obala's there. And the dance moves that he has in that native dance, and I did promise, maybe I overpromised, but this annual celebration moves around, and I'd love to have it in Austin. I told the folks I'd love to have it down in Austin. But I did promise them that if it does come to Austin, I will dance like Obala.
There you
that
go.
We'll see how this rolls. Yeah, I know. Full of hammy. So there's much to be proud of, and thank you for that invitation, Obala. It was awesome. We have some July anniversaries, and I do know that we had some rollout in the employee engagement of the swag and the T-shirts in the city store, but these are the employee anniversaries for July. Lance Ellingson, 36 years, the wastewater treatment plant. Todd Clennon, police, 26 years. Stephen Lang, engineering, 24. Brian Blake, Austin Police, 19 years. Jim Halsey, retiring from the fire department after 18 years. We wish him well in his retirement. Sam Schuweiler, Police, 18 years. Joe Mashing from the Street Department, 13 years. Aaron Heimer with the Arena, 11 years. Dustin Hicks, Police, 9 years. Brendan Busted, Street Department, 7 years. Sydney Wiesinger, Nature Center, 6 years. Carrie Harstead, Police, 5 years. Lauren Bakken, Planning and Zoning and Building, in 4 years. Christian Wangen, Engineering, 4 years. Evan Walker, Library, 3 years. So those are awesome years of service, and I do want to report that we do have 5 new police officers being sworn in July 14th, McKeek. That's a big moving the needle when you have 5 new officers starting, so we appreciate those upcoming hires. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn to our Monday, July 21st meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you. And the